All right, safety equipment. So this is part of our SUP equipment still. Safety equipment. We're going to look at PFDs, we're going to look at leashes, and I brought out a throw rope to have a look at as well. So we'll start with PFDs. First of all, this is a personal flotation device. The style of it is a paddling jacket. Paddling jackets are quite often thicker in the middle because they don't have a lot on the sides and they're a little bit shorter. They're designed like that intentionally so that when we put them on, we have tons of unrestricted range of motion, and paddling jackets are shorter so that when we hinge over and move or sit in a kayak, they don't push up really high on us. Other styles that you'll see quite commonly are the longer styles. You'll see them on jet skis, you'll see them on windsurfers. They're thinner because they have more buoyancy from the length and the overall size. You can wear them on a SUP, no problem, but they have a tendency when we bend over to pop up a little bit, and they have a tendency to chafe more under the arm. So when you're buying your own jacket, just considerations that you might want to look at. PFD, personal flotation device. I don't have one to show you, but there is a difference between a personal flotation device and a life jacket. So I don't have a life jacket to show you, but you've probably all seen them before. The key difference is that a personal flotation device will float us, but not hold our head out of the water. So if I passed out and I'm face first, I could drown. If I've fallen back, I could roll to the side, be under the water, and drown again. A life jacket is designed to always right itself and keep our face out of the water. So the example that probably most people know is the keyhole style that we see on cruise ships. You put it over your head, it's like a big SpongeBob that you've stuck your head through. You got a strap that goes around the body. Because all the flotation is in the front, when you're in the water, it rights itself, you're looking at the sky, and you're breathing. The other one you probably have seen before is the ones for kids. They have the little pillow in the back. They also have next to no flotation in the back. So they have flotation in the front, they have a pillow in the back. So when that child falls in the water and just relaxes, they naturally get rotated up. So a life jacket keeps your head out of the water, even if you're unconscious. PFD will just float you. Most of the time, we're always wearing PFDs. So that's the difference. Properly fitting a PFD is required by Transport Canada. So why do we wear a PFD? Why do we wear a life jacket? Number one, because it'll save our lives. Number two, it's required by Transport Canada as part of the Small Vessel Act to always have a properly fitting life jacket for everyone on board. And that could be a motorboat, that could be a paddleboard, that could be a kayak. It's just a basic requirement. Properly fitting means that when I put my thumbs under the straps and lift, this jacket doesn't come over my ears. If it comes over my ears, it's not properly fitting. If it comes over my ears and I fall in the water, I'm going to end up with looking at the inside of my jacket. Likelihood of me drowning is a lot higher. If not drowning, my stress level is probably going to go through the roof because I now have to be trying to pull that jacket down. So we make sure it's properly fitting to start. On this particular jacket, I have straps across the tops of the shoulders I tighten. I have two straps on each side that I tighten. And I have a strap here across the bottom that I tighten. Got to be able to breathe. That's usually my check for participants. Can you breathe? Because they'll say, oh, it's so tight. Make sure they can take a big inhale. If they can, they're good to go. And then exhale. All right, so properly fitting, lifting here. If you don't have a life jacket and Transport Canada, whether it's the police or the Coast Guard, decide to pull you over, they can give you a ticket, and they will do so on the water. So if just wearing it because you're supposed to and because it'll keep you safe isn't enough, there's also potential financial impact if you get pulled over. What else do we need to have from Transport Canada? We need to have a noisemaker. So you need to have a noisemaker. In our case, it's always going to be a whistle. Readily accessible to the mouth. So if you have it down here, I can't reach that with my mouth. Technically, they won't like that. You're probably not going to get a ticket for it, but you could. So a noisemaker, we have to be heard. No matter how loud you think you can scream, you can't scream as loud as a whistle. This is to get attention on the water. This is your 911. It's not a game for kids to play with, even though they usually think it is. It is to get people's attention when we are in trouble. Other things we might need based on that requirement is at dusk or afterwards, we have to have a waterproof flashlight. So we need a navigational light so that people can see us and not run us over. Paddle Canada's interpretation of the rules. And this comes for a lot of folks don't like to wear the life jacket. A lot of folks put it under the bungees on the front of the board. I'm not a fan of that. Shouldn't go there. It doesn't work if it's there. Keep it on your body. If you decide to put it there, the interpretation of the guidelines, because stand-up paddleboards aren't in there. There's crafts by length, and then they have exceptions of if there's no inside, then you don't need a bailer. If there is under a certain length, then you don't need an anchor line, you know, stuff like that. So once you go through all the exceptions, if your life jacket is not on you and under the bungees on the front, we kind of default to a sit-on-top kayak, in which case we need to have a throw rope, a buoyant heaving line. 15 meters of buoyant heaving line. Heaving line just means a rope we can throw, which is pretty much any rope. Buoyant means it floats on the surface of the water. Typically, you're going to see them, the easiest way to manage them is in a throw bag like this. Throw bags are designed to throw the rope on coils. We're not going to use it for that. If anything, we're going to use it for towing, and that's part of a different lesson. So, requirements for the jacket. Has to be properly fitting. Has to have a noisemaker on it. We need to have a waterproof flashlight as a navigational aid at dusk. If it's under the bungees, carry a throw rope as well, if you're not just going to carry one anyway. All right. Other pieces, oh yeah, one last thing. Inflatables are super common and super handy. I don't have one right here to show you. If you wear an inflatable, no matter what craft you're in, it has to be on your body to be legal. If it's one of the hippie ones that you see, or the ones that go around the hips like a fanny pack, the ones that you see everyone wearing backwards, you can't put that under the bungee. If it's under the bungee, it's illegal. It has to be on your body. And that's whether you're on a motorboat, a dragon boat, a paddleboard, or a kayak. That's just the way the rules work. So always have those on your body. Next, leashes. Leashes are not required by Transport Canada, but leashes will save your life just as much. The goal of the leash is to keep you close to the paddleboard. If you fall off or go for a swim because it's really hot, you don't want that board floating away on you. I don't care how good a swimmer you think you are. As soon as you fall in that water and your head comes up out of the water, if there's a bit of current or a little bit of wind, that board is on its way and you will not be able to catch it. The only way to stay close to your board, guaranteed, is to have the leash on. So leashes should always be worn. Leashes generally attach at the tail. How we attach a leash. I'll take it off to start. There's usually a thread, a D-ring. If it's an inflatable, there might be different devices that we attach to on the back of the board. We open everything up. And I always say it's the count of 3 to open it and the count of 3 to close it. We have the 2 sides of Velcro here and a little bit of area here with no Velcro in it at all. That area is where we put the rope. I usually put the knot in there. The knot's the point of failure. So if it's encased in the Velcro, the chances of it coming undone are even less than if it's not in there. So we seal it once, seal it twice, seal it 3 times. It should look like that. That is a properly attached leash. This is not a properly attached leash, but I see it all the time. It's really just fastened by 1 layer of Velcro, maybe the second one. This is absolutely not a properly attached leash, and I see this. That's not going to hold anybody on the board if you fall. So remember, it's a count of 3. 1, or it would be 1, 2, 3, and then we should have 3, 1, 2, 3 to seal it in. Putting this leash on. This leash is designed to go around an ankle. Some leashes have an even bigger cuff. If it has a bigger cuff, it means we can put it around our calf. Benefit of it being around our calf is when we're standing on the paddleboard, leash isn't dangling behind us, and when we go to move, we're not going to step on it. Not my preference. Don't really like it. I don't like that constriction. Goes around my ankle. Rule of thumb is less dominant foot, if you know what that is. Tight enough so that your foot won't pull through, loose enough that it can move a little bit. There's a swivel here so that it doesn't get all kind of bound up. Swivel should point out to the side or behind us, ideally to the side, because when I'm standing on the paddleboard, this moves the leash out from behind me, and as I move on the board, it's not going to be in the way. Most common style of leash is an ankle leash. Second type of leash I have here, a quick release. So this will come in two different variations. This could just be a carabiner at this point here. And what we do with that is the carabiner goes on the life jacket, gets it right off your body altogether. Great, it's up and out of the way. Super handy. The quick release has this extra connector on it here and this little red ball. The quick release is to get the leash off quickly. Pull the red ball, opens up the clasp, leash comes off. So, super handy when we're just getting off the water. We pull the little ball and walk away from the board. We don't have to take off the leash. You know, it's handy for that, but that's not the intent behind it. The intent behind it is for when we're on rivers. This type of leash is absolutely required on a river. The reason for that is when we're on rivers, we have different hazards. They call them strainers. It could be a tree laying across the water. It could be a log boom or a log jam that, you know, we paddle up to and get caught on the edge. If our board is being pulled under and we're hanging onto that tree or that log on the edge, that board is going to drown us because it's pulling us under. There is no way in that scenario where I can reach down and pull my ankle up to get that leash off. Reaching to the side, pulling here, releases the board, and then I can clamber out. So quick releases are always required for rivers because of the extra hazards that are there. I wear one a lot just on the ocean, flat water paddling, because it's just handy. Gets it off the board is the main reason. Okay, lastly, I'm going to come back to this throw bag again. We talked about that as being a requirement. If you put your paddle, or sorry, put your life jacket under the bungees. It is also a requirement for us to carry as guides. So Transport Canada dictates that, or has requirements around guides and the equipment they need to carry. We're going to be covering that in a lesson here, but this is what it's talking about when it says throw bags. When we are guiding a lesson, guiding an excursion, or we are seen by anyone in that group, whether we're being paid or not as a leader, we are treated as a guide. Our vessels are no longer considered under the pleasure craft operators regulation. We come under the guide regulations, which changes the requirements for what we carry. First aid kit, throw rope, and there's a whole other guide that I'll reference in the notes under this video that lists what we have, and it's going to depend on conditions, how fast the water is moving, and the temperatures of it. So those are the safety considerations I wanted to hit in this video. Life jackets, why we need to wear them, how we know that they're properly fitting, because we need to make sure our participants, they're fitted properly. Leashes, why and how to put it on, the different styles, and throw bags, a couple scenarios around where we need them. All right, that's safety equipment.